Putin is actually Luke Tyler. That's a little known fact, everybody.
Since its debut into Duel Links, Shiranui has proved to be an incredibly strong control deck in the meta, and has quickly found itself a tier 2 placement. Do be aware that the tier list is based off tournaments, however, the ranked ladder is still affected by the tier list, but much less so in the mid to late season. There are plenty of ways to build Shiranui, though almost every top performing build in tournaments so far has been very heavy on Backrow. Having a very fragile playstyle, Shiranui typically needs Backrow to fall back on. For this build, I've compiled a tier list of recommended tech cards. In A, I have the ones which the community perceives to be the absolute best ones. In B, I have ones which are strongly recommended. Give them a try and see which of them you prefer. The ones I have in C I think are good, but personally I prefer all of the above ones. The ones I have in D are the recommended free-to-play alternatives if you don't have access to enough of the above ones. The other top performing build of Shiranui is a Grassless Greener build utilising Spell Specialist. When playing 5 or more spells with different names, you are guaranteed to open a spell card. So when playing 3 grass and 4 one-off spells, the deck has a pretty strong chance of opening grass. This is a much more aggressive way of playing the deck, so you might find it a bit more interesting. Gameplay of this build in particular can be found at this point in the video. From the list I've shown you, there has been a lack of Gold Sark amongst these decks. In Shiranui decks, Gold Sark has been trending down in popularity. And here's why. In the build that I showed first, people tend to prefer those slots to be otherwise used for Backrow. You may occasionally see the Spell Specialist build playing 1 Gold Sark as a way to fill the one-offs it needs for the skill to work. However, if you aren't drawing grass as your guaranteed spell, you'd rather it be a defensive spell, because a hand of 3 monsters and a way to protect yourself is better than a hand of 3 monsters and a Gold Sark. This is what a Gold Sark Backrow build would look like. These builds still see success, but in small numbers. Moving on to the skills, level augmentation isn't very popular anymore. It used to be quite common amongst aggro builds, but most of the aggro builds are now playing Spell Specialist, which is mostly for consistency reasons. It's worth mentioning that this build isn't super aggressive, but it is a lot more aggressive than the Backrow build. So I'm calling it the aggro build to create a clear divide between the two. Now, almost every Backrow build you'll see in a tournament plays Sealed Tombs. The exception to this is normally Endless Trap Hell. This is because Sealed Tombs does a lot against the meta. If we take a look at the tier list, that is 4 out of 6 decks which are heavily affected by Sealed Tombs. For the ranked ladder, there will be certain parts with a lot less meta. When that's the case, Sealed Tombs will typically be a lot worse. For the Backrow builds, these are the alternative skills I recommend. I will also put all this stuff in the description. In the most recent tournaments I've played in, I've been using an invoked engine with Sealed Tombs, but I've been siding into Sorcery Conduit for the 2 meta matchups that Sealed Tombs does nothing against. And so far I've been really liking it. Against Ritual Beast and Blackwing, having the Draw Sense Alistair is really useful. And even outside those matchups, Alistair is really good for dealing with common threats like Floodgate Trap Hole. If you have access to it, I recommend giving it a try for yourself. I play 22 cards, so I still have enough room for Backrow. This doesn't work in the Spell Specialist build though, because you don't want to draw Invocation as your guaranteed spell. The skill will sometimes give you more than one spell though, but it's not worth the risk. A hand of 3 zombies and Invocation is not a pretty sight. The level 3 tuner doesn't see play in every Backrow build. Some people really value having access to Squire Saga, and some people prefer to synchro climb with only Spectral Sword. Drawing the level 2 tuner is a lot better than drawing the level 3 tuner. It mostly comes down to how important you think Squire Saga is. To conclude, there are 2 main ways to make a competitive Shiranui deck. You have the Backrow build and you have the more aggressive Spell Specialist build. Which one you choose comes down to player preference. If you are a free-to-play player, the Aggro build is much more recommended. You only need to play 4 tech cards in the deck, and they are the 4 one-offs to make the skill work. In the same formatting that I did for the Backrow build, this is a tier list of recommended tech cards. Pick any 4 spell cards for your 4 spell one-offs and you're good to go. To explain why people like Kiteroid in this build, it can't be Cosmic Cycloned, and its graveyard effect is good for grass. I hope you found stuff so far useful. The following gameplay is from recent tournaments. You can find more information on Shiranui in the deck guide, which I will link down below.